I am Rastamboro Kitwana, and today we are going to tell you about a tragedy that took place here at the Pelham River over 4 centuries ago.
I'm Marlene Phillips Lee. On January 28, 1623, the chief tegraman of the Carib people welcomed Sir Thomas Warner, his family and 14 people to the beautiful island of St. Kitts.
In 1626, the French also settled on St. Kitts and were welcomed by the Carib Indians. The Caribs welcomed the new settlers, but were apprehensive at the amount of Europeans that were migrating to the islands.
To protect the territory, the Caribs planned to launch an attack on the British and the French settlers. They summoned for tribes on neighboring islands to act as reinforcement.
Unfortunately, the Caribs' plan was sabotaged. It is said that a Carib woman informed Sir Thomas Warner about the attack, and he joined forces with the French and counterattacked.
As a result, more than 120 Carib Indians were killed, and thousands that came from neighboring islands to assist were massacred. The only memory of this ancient Carib tribe are the pre-Columbian pictographs, also known as petroglyphs, that have been carved into the Pelham River-bed walls approximately 250 yards up from the mouth of Bloody Point.
The massacre is believed to have taken place at the junction where the Pelham River meets the sea. It was said that the river ran red with blood for several days. Ever since the massacre, it's been known as Bloody Point.
The petroglyphs capture moments in time, reflecting a proud past and civilization which evoke memories of the first inhabitants of Liamuigas, the Caribs. It is these images and patterns which provide the inspiration for the dancers of the Okolo Tegramantine Arts Theatre, as they use their bodies in space to recapture a piece of our heritage left as a testament in stone.
We are still unsure of the true meanings of these mysterious images, but maybe Greg Pereira of Greg Safaris can share some light on what he knows about these mysterious places.
Greg Safaris is a tour operation. We've been going since 1986. We're actually 3, you could say, full-time tour guides. We operate 3 different tours. 2 are hiking and 1 is a drive-in tour.
And could you tell me what got you interested in this in the first instance?
Well, I was very fortunate. I grew up in a family that started one of the first hotels on St. Kitts, the Ocean Terrace Inn. And I actually went away to study hotel management. I spent a few years at my parents' hotel working, and realized while there that there was an opportunity to start interpretive tours into the rainforests, to the plantations, and I saw it as an opportunity to work for myself, and I took it in 1986. The government of St. Kitts asked me, Tambora, to work with the Carifesta committee in regards to the indigenous peoples component for Carifesta, and as it turned out, I was able to meet some very interesting folk who know a lot about this canyon. We have a situation where someone came in here and spray painted some of the drawings, which really, I think, defaced it. You find too that there is a lot of sheep rearing in the area here above the canyon, which means that there can be times when loose stones fall down into the canyon, and if there's anybody in here, it can cause serious injury sometimes. So I think if there was greater recognition by the people in the area of the importance of this heritage site and what it can be for them, not just culturally, but also as a money-making entity with the tourism trade in the future. While the shaman and his elders were here during the ceremony, he was really moved by the generosity and the hospitality of the people in the area, and said that he felt that that the spirit of his ancestors resided in the people in this area. He actually felt he could see their spirit, his ancestors, in the people themselves. So he wanted to impart to the community that, you know, that they're both tied, his ancestors and them, and that it's important that they respect and treasure this unique heritage. It's one of a kind. On the way in here today with Tamboro, I came across an interesting bit of flint on the ground. Now this is not a native material. This would have had to have come from one of the neighboring islands. And it's an interesting fact that this is what the Amerindians use for cutting things, as you can get a very sharp edge if you do it properly. So it's rather, I think, interesting that today is marked rather auspiciously by finding a bit of the Amerindian heritage on the way in here. This particular item here to me is very special. I was fortunate to have been actually here in this canyon when there were ceremonies done, cleansing ceremonies. I was very honored to be given this shak as, I guess, in recognition of me being a part of the ceremonies that took place here. The shak was used right where we're standing here by Shaman Bosch, because apparently this is a sacred spot. Water flowed through this natural cut you see here in the big boulder above me, and this was where the tobacco rituals were done during Carifesta. This is where he would shake his shak. Now this shak is filled with tiny pebbles from the Amazon River, and if I use it, you can hear those pebbles. And that's more or less the beat that Shaman Bosch used while the elders in his group danced and the tobacco rituals took place here as a way of communicating with the ancestors of Shaman Bosch, a way of getting to know the ancestors and vice versa. That's why we did the ceremony here using this. Now I also have something here that was given to me by the Surinamese while they were here during the Carifesta indigenous peoples part. And this is something that they use to process cassava. So the graded cassava would go in the top here, a stone would be hung or something heavy would be hung at the bottom, and it would be attached to a tree nearby their homes. And that way, with the process of being squeezed, the juice in the cassava, graded cassava, would ooze out and be collected underneath. Now this juice they actually used to create something called casrit, which is slightly alcoholic and was used during the process of the ceremonies. The actual graded cassava in here was then dried and used as food. Well, during my tenure of being a part of Carifesta, I was very honored to be given these things, actually Tamboro, by the Amerindian people, I guess out of respect for what I had done with them and for them. Well, for me, I actually cried at one part of the ceremony because I realized that this was the first time in 500 years almost that we had our Amerindian ancestors, the original people of this island, back to St. Kitts to atone the wrongs done to their own kind, you know, when Thomas Warner arrived here. So for me, it was a very moving experience to realize that I was involved after 300 years with a ceremony that saw to the cleansing of the sins, you could say, perpetrated by the European colonists on these very simple, humble and very friendly people, the original people of St. Kitts, who, by the way, prefer to be called Kalinago today, as the term Carib has cannibalistic connotations. So the politically correct term Tamboro for our Aboriginal people would be Kalinago.
The Kalinago of Liamuigas. They knew to be prepared for lightning raids from other islands beyond the sea, but also knew how to launch their own. The people who had made Tegraman their leader could look after themselves well and did not shrink from extending their hospitality to strangers that the waves cast on their shores. It was Tegraman's turn to watch the horizon. How many more would come? Would these strangers with weapons that roared leave enough space for him and his people? They had come looking for food in the village, but had nothing to offer in return. The captive women were beginning to show them favors, and these men with no women encouraged them. Their habitations were uncomfortably close to the people's sacred places. The boys warned that they had come to exterminate the island people and their ancestors with blood and fire. And before long, another boat arrived. The newcomers appeared worried, but the three French sailors were happy at last. Not Tegraman. There were too many of them now, and more likely to come. The warning of the boys rang in his head, but against those weapons and those walls of logs, his people could do nothing. The call went out for help to the other island. Barbie realized that these strangers who had been kind to her were in danger. She warned them, and that night, over 100 Kalinago died. The British and French waited quietly for the others that were to come from across the sea. On both sides, the death toll was heavy. The islanders took to their piragas, while the Europeans that were injured died within hours in excruciating pain. Liamuiga became St. Kitts and was forever lost to Kalinago. The people of Tegraman survive elsewhere. They maintain a proud existence in the islands to the south and on the mainland from which they had come, a mere century before Columbus first set foot in their world. At the beginning of the millennium, they returned to St. Kitts to celebrate with those that had come later what the Caribbean had become. Like Tegraman and his men, they gathered in the night to listen to the wisdom of their shamans. And in the darkness, they made peace with the land that had drunk their forefathers' blood and liberated their spirits for eternity.
Now we go there, they go to Witwi, and they go chain this all. They feel very happy. After so many years ago, that now this moment, the Almighty God give me the blessing, the power, and that we do this, we go and we do this for everyone, not for me only, on you, but for the whole world.
We hope that you have learned a little bit more about St. Kitts culture. If you decide to visit Bloody Point, remember the tragedy of the Carib Indians and treat this sacred heritage site with respect, because it is a part of our history. And next time, we'll meet you on the beat.
Culture beat.